word. The word there again for law also means your word. He says, how I love your word. He says, it is my meditation all the day. And you ask yourself, why is he meditating through the word all the day? Listen, thou through thy commandments has made me wiser than my enemies, for they are ever with me. Now, I want you to underline that. Thou through your commandments have made me wiser than all my enemies, for they are with me. I can continuously see people that have set themselves against me. But you have made me, because of the word, you have made me wiser than my enemies. God does not need to kill your enemy. He does not need to make your enemy sick. He does not need to make your enemy poor. He just needs to make you wiser than them. Oh, did somebody understand what I just said? He just needs to make you wiser than them. Because see, wisdom is profitable to direct, and a man without wisdom has no direction. So imagine that which sets itself against you but has no direction. Remember, he says that if the iron be blunt, he says, if you don't wet it, if you don't sharpen it, he says, then you're going to apply much strength. But he says, but wisdom is profitable to direct. It means that if you have wisdom for your direction, wiser than your enemy, it means in all ways he will be blunt. He will exercise much energy for what will take you a single strike to do. He will be slower. God has not made you to be slower than your enemy, to be equal with your enemy. Any man that sets, that's why I tell you this, no man has ever fought me in the gospel and has a bigger ministry than I. And I'm not saying that out of pride. It's true. They have to be slower. I'm wiser. You see that? Because I never fight men. I cannot set enemies on my altar, because if I do, I've given them wisdom. I've given them wisdom greater than me. That is why this altar doesn't fight. My pastors don't fight. We don't know how to fight wars. You see that? You see that? There are things you should never fight. Why? Because you make the man you hate wiser. You release and hand over the graces operating on your spirit for justification to him for wisdom. Why do you do that? See that? So he says, your word, your law became my meditation all the days of my life. And he says, and through your commandments, through your message, through your revelation, you made me wiser than my enemy. I'm wiser than my enemies. No man has ever set themselves against me and they're greater. It has never happened, and it will never happen. You study. The next verse. Now, this is the thing. This is the one I was talking about. It says, I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. I understand, listen, more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts. Did somebody get this? Did somebody see the door? Did somebody see the door? Did somebody see the door? He said, by your word, not only have you made me wiser than my enemies, but this is the only thing that can ever raise you above anybody that has ever taught you. This is the only thing that can elevate you above anybody who could ever teach you. And then not only does he speak of his eon, his age, he goes back and he says, because I understand more than the ancients, for I keep thy precepts. Again, because of the word, you have set me in balance with all of those who came before me, and I have more understanding than them. What a boldness. Now, if God gives you more revelation than Abraham, what happens to you? If God gives you more revelation than Isaiah, what would happen to you? If God gives you more revelation than Ezekiel, what would happen to you? If you start walking in a revelation higher than David himself, which is teaching you today, what would happen to you? If God gave you a wisdom higher than Paul, what would happen to you today? If God gave you a wisdom higher than Peter, higher than James, higher than John, higher than Luke, higher than Matthew, if they were canonized, and he's saying in all of those canonized individuals, I still have a vacuum and an eon in the spirit realm where I can give you a provision to be wiser. Somebody get it. Shapatele bronda kosa tele brother. Somebody just get it. Get it. These things you're reading don't leave men's beds. They're on hotel rooms. They're in cars. They're on phones. They're on YouTube. They're on Facebook. These words, they have built empires. They have built kingdoms. They have set up kings and set down others. They have changed economies. They have flipped histories. They have reshaped politics. They have aligned human history like we know it. And God is saying there is still a provision in the word wherewith I can make you wiser than those which are quoted. I can give you wisdom further than those that you use for reference. Kaya bozelepa. I got this thing many years ago, and I read it again, and I looked up and I said, whew, and I read it again. And I look at, now, I'm not even talking about those that hate me. I'm not talking about my enemies. Leave that realm of enemies. They're already less. But God has brought you to a place and said, look, I can make you wiser than any man that can teach you. I can make you greater than any ancient grace you have ever read about and been inspired and stirred for. The power is not in the speech. The power is in the language, because the glory of language is the authority that a man has to command the things that are not seen. Some of the things I'm speaking will be understood in hundreds of years by some people if Christ is not yet back. And when I read this thing, I went to God and I said, give me that thing, that one.